This is Steve Melendrez, illustrator, sculptor, model maker, designer for the Natural History Museum in Los Angeles for about 15 years. I'm going to talk about watercolors, and then I'm going to show you my watercolor sketchbook for the year 2021. And I will be showing demonstrations of different things, and I'll talk about that as I play that. Now, I hated watercolors like a lot of people do because they're really hard to control. And you get frustrated because you have to work in reverse. I worked in oils and then acrylics. Oils took too long to dry. Acrylics dried fast. If you made a mistake, you just painted over it. No problem. Watercolors is not that way. If you make a mistake, you got to figure a way to either blend it into the actual painting or start over again. It's like playing chess. You have to be a little bit ahead of your game to make it work. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show a series of techniques that I use to teach my elementary students, my middle school, and my college students. So I'm going to give you different levels. So basically what I'm saying is I'll say, okay, this is what I'm teaching my elementary, and that's as far as I'm going to go because it's like they could only go to a certain level. And of course there is different ranges in elementary, so I try to treat each level different. Middle school is the same way, has multiple levels, you know, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. College students, they're the easiest. It's like what they say, preaching to the choir. They pay money to be there, so they want to know what it's like from a professional artist or somebody that was in the business, and they want to absorb as many techniques and things that could help them. And I really, really enjoyed that part. That it was just no problems whatsoever. It was like, okay, I need this, this, and this done, and the next time I see you, it's done. You know, I don't have to call parents and you know tell students, young students, okay, you need to complete that. You know, you could do this and this, but then it's not done, and it's just this fight back and forth, and you get frustrated. And I understand it's youth. It's what they do. But I'm going to show a series of techniques that may help some people. And like I said on a previous video, I am not going to do that hyperspeed because it works too fast and you see it happening. It looks like magic. And it's not magic, it's just speed it up and then make it look easy. I'm going to try to show the actual techniques that I use. Now, granted, there's tens of thousands of brilliant people out there, and they all have their way of doing stuff, and that's great. You know, it's sometimes you just look at those videos just for the pure enjoyment of seeing somebody create something, and that's great. But since I'm a teacher now, I want to show what I teach my students and how to get there. So that's what I'm doing in this. Now, if you wanted to see more of my stuff, you could do a couple of things. Either you can Google Nevets Design, which is my website, and go straight there. You can Google my full name, Stephen Melendrez, and museum. Now, if you go there, I have no idea what's out there because it goes, you know, that sometimes they have ownership to everything you do. So some of those things pop up that it's like, oh, I didn't know I was doing that. And so there's things out there, but my website is more controlled by me. And like I said, I'm going to do demonstrations of my paintings that I did for 2021. Okay, so this is my first page of the watercolor from 2021. Now I'm going to be demonstrating how to do the wood grain technique on this one. And let me get a closer. And eventually I'll be showing how to do the insects. So that is the plan. And this is the second page. This is kind of a study on eyes that I will be trying to do a demonstration. And let me just get a close-up of this. And of course, I have some hidden messages in it. You know, the eyes are the gateway to the soul. But for those people that can say, I only draw with stick figures, right here, plenty of stick figures. I just stack them up on top of each other. Anyway, so I'll be doing that. This is the next one. Of course, one drawing connects me to the next drawing. So while I was working on those eyes, I thought, oh, I'll just do some more smaller eyes. And I did a study before, but of course my mind takes a turn to the left or right or down or wherever. And I just thought, oh, I'm going to make these eyes. And all of a sudden I thought, oh, shish kebabs eyes. And then this thing grew into this. Anyway, so I'm just going to get a closer view of that. And I'm going to be demonstrating this maybe. How to do these watercolor techniques for small little videos. Now, the name changed. Instead of being shish kebabs, it became the all-seeing eye. So that's kind of... this is the next page. Now, these are studies, and sometimes those become a different painting. And I'll just give you kind of a little, like I said, my ideas go different directions. And the next one is going to be actually the peacock feathers, and I'll demonstrate. And from the previous page, this is what spawned from that little illustration of the peacock feathers. Now, it just started growing and growing, and I use a super microfine brush, a liner brush or 3/0, and sometimes I even take out some of the hairs so it gets even tinier. Now I'm going to zoom in so you can see the size and the detail. So it's just a matter of overlapping, and sometimes my watercolors take different directions, and I'm not sure what direction it is going to happen, but that is kind of a nice happy surprise at the end. This is the next page, and it's kind of a little watercolor study of jellyfish, and this again helped me with the next painting. So I'm going to zoom into one of them. And you can see some of the detail in here. And I'm just going to scan. Now these are pretty small, but it's, like I said, this is a study for the next painting I'm going to be demonstrating. Okay, so this is what the other one turned into, and you can see the jellyfish here, and there's one up here, and of course this, and a lot of this happens by accident. Of course, coming off the page is kind of something I kind of like to do, so it looks like it's an encapsulated painting, and it looks like things are falling apart or on the top of things. And so, again, these are fairly small. Okay, so I'm going to go in here and show the detail. And I did a video of how to do seaweed. And there's that scribble technique that I was trying to show people that I use for the rocks. Now, the thing with watercolors, you need to start slowly and bring the colors up, layers upon layers. Now, I know that's really hard for some people to do because they want to go dark right away. And some of my paintings, they may have, you know, anywhere from 10 to 30 layers. And when I start to add layers and layers and layers, you get more detail and definition in things. And that's really the hard thing to teach. So this would be more for the college level students of going over and over and bringing out and doing light and shadow and highlights and layers. Okay, so this is what happened from the previous one to this one. Now, this is my representation of the Birth of Venus by Botticelli. And if you look at the actual Botticelli, she's coming out of a clamshell. She's like maybe 8 or 9 feet tall, body proportions. And if you look at her, I guess it would be a right shoulder, it's dislocated, and it looks like it shouldn't be that way, but that's if you actually looking for it. So this represents the birth of Venus in my interpretation. So this represents the female and the birth of Venus. I'm using a shark. These are called mermaids' purses. And this is now some sharks give live birth and some have these mermaid purses that it's like a umbilical cord to this thing, and then the shark pops out. But if you look at this side right here, I dislocated the right pec fin so that it kind of represents that. Okay, so again, I'm showing, now this is a blown up of this illustration, and it's layers, and then pulling out the layers, the highlights, going back, adding more layers. Again, there's that that scribble technique, and you can see right here, that's something going to bother me, and I'm going to have to take care of that. This needs a little bit more work, and there's a lot more work in here. That's just me. Oh, another one right there, that's going to bother me. So that's kind of my life. And this is the last page. Now, the idea came from the other insects on the very first page. And then I was just thinking, oh, you know, some people would like to see what they look up close up, which kind of stemmed the other thing. And all of a sudden it turned into magnifying glasses. And of course I have the actual I own these magnifying glasses. So I kind of use those, and there's kind of like a little supper when it magnifies even more. But again, like I said in a previous video, this is actually the insects that are real insects that I have in an insect box that I'm using. And I'm going to kind of zoom in here. And of course, this is what I used to do when I used to work for entomology and making scientific illustrations. Worked for a lot of different departments. And that was just my life. But that is a close-up, and I'll give you more detail. So this is more detail of the insect. There's that little highlights and shadows, and the little hair fragments that they had. Now, when you're looking at the painting, some of these things are so fine that you don't even recognize those things. But for me, working with entomologists, they count every single hair and the direction and the thickness, and they're kind of insane about those things. But it made me a better artist. It pushed me to a further dimension that I could ever experience, because it just forced me to look at detail that I would have overlooked if I didn't have somebody that did that for a living. And you know, little crack and crevice is so important to them that it's only important to other entomologists and no one else. Anyway, so this is kind of the last one.